Hi, Sonoma County. It is Monday, October 12th, and I am finally in Rome, Italy. So left Copenhagen earlier today and flew into Rome. What a difference in temperature. So left cold. Copenhagen, where actually had a fun night last night. We went to the Danish French football game as sort of a closeout on my time in Copenhagen, and let me tell you, there's nothing like doing the wave with thousands of people around a stadium and singing the Danish anthem to really appreciate the importance of football as a sport in that country. But anyway, a fun time to a fun close to my sort of time in Copenhagen. But it really brings me to what I wanted to do on this video, which is kind of give some reflection so far to my experience here, because it's been such an incredible, overwhelming, amazing sort of opportunity to travel through Europe and really try to, one, represent the U.S., but two, really get a better understanding of what's happening in Europe and how what's happening here both affects and impacts the U.S. and where there's opportunity to really work better together for collaboration. And so I think, I've thought about this. The last time I spent this much time in Europe, I was 21 and backpacking with a good friend, with my best friend, growing up, and I went to 5 countries, and, I had this huge backpack on, and I was experiencing everything as a tourist. So, I went to the Colosseum in Rome and the Pantheon, and, I stayed at the hostel, and I ate very inexpensive food, and, I got to see probably some of the history of the place, but I didn't get a chance at all when I was backpacking through Europe to really understand the culture and the values of the people. And I think it's the thing I'm most appreciating about this fellowship so far is that, one of the reasons I love and originally went into marketing and strategy is I love to think about what drives behavior, what makes people tick. Why do you buy one brand and not another brand? Why do you vote a certain way on the other extreme? Why do some people hold open doors and other people don't? What's kind of the social contract we've all agreed to when we live in the same community? And I really loved understanding that and to think about, how do I then be in an industry or business that supports that? And what's been great about this fellowship is that we're really learning what makes these local cultures and the people here, what their values are, and what makes them tick. And it's funny, when I was in Copenhagen, I have to say, well, I'll backtrack. So when I was in Brussels, Brussels has just really become a melting pot of all the different cultures in Europe. And what I found most fascinating about being in Brussels is that most of the people there are very much focused on sort of what's happening overall in Europe. They're working on sort of the European Commission, the overall broad sort of Europe's issues, Europe's monetary policy, trade policy, and relationships. And then yet everyone still tells you where they're from in Europe. And it's that real sort of attachment to country and culture and religion. And then I went to Copenhagen, and it's almost become a bit of a sort of a funny now because, I keep thinking about the response to everything as well. It's Viking. We're Vikings. We're Viking culture. We plunge into cold water and run to the sauna because we're Viking. We bike everywhere because we're Viking. We're Danish. That's our culture. That's our values. And we really believe in sort of taking care of people, and it very much because of that idea of this value of community, and that everyone sort of deserves the same sort of shot at things, the same kind of, there's a real focus on equality, really does have, well, the impact of that is really in that it's created a middle class. And so you don't see the super wealthy and you don't see the super poor, although they're kind of on the outskirts. But you really, the majority of the folks are running that middle class, and there are pros and cons to that, but it's their culture, and they're very proud Danish people, and very proud of who they are, and proud of their resistance to the climate and their ability to focus on this green economy and being healthy and being outside and kind of their urban development. And so it frames, so when you're able to spend 4 or 5 days with someone, with a local, taking you around and introducing you to leaders in the community, business leaders, economic leaders, and spending really time not out at the tourist places. In fact, I didn't even make it to Tivoli, which is the kind of the main tourist attraction, but to instead made it to the local restaurants and out on cultural night. You really do get a sense of who these people are and their culture and what drives them. And when you think about doing business internationally, you have to understand that dynamic. And now here I am in Rome, and it's a new set of values and a new set of culture. And the thing that's been most prevailing for me is this deep sense of history and legacy and their story. The thing I've heard over and over again in Europe is, it's important to understand the narrative. And it's not a word I think we use very often, at least not in my day-to-day life. And I can't tell you, I probably hear it in every sort of meeting that I've been in, is that it's about the narrative. What's the narrative? What's the history, the legacy, the story of the people and where they came from? And here, sort of the pervasive value is this idea of risk aversion. And I know that sort of sounds silly, but after everything they've been through and sort of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, so to speak, there's this real aversion to taking big risks, and it's really limited some of their focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. And when you look at going across Europe, I'm sure I'll be amazed at what I learned in Belgrade, and then as I finish my tour in Paris, and I'll probably have more to share, but I think it's really such a fantastic opportunity to get to know the people and understand what motivates and what drives, because it's really under those conditions that you can truly form a collaboration. And I think that's a really important lesson back in our own community as Sonoma County, as we think about really trying to understand everyone's perspective in the other side, and instead of pointing fingers at each other, let's come together and try to figure out how do we work together. Because I think at the end of the day, when you're in Sonoma County, we share a lot of the same values, no matter what industry you're in or where you live or what area of our county, is that you're really about keeping Sonoma County a place that is a healthy place, that is a great place to live, that has housing that we can afford to live in, that preserves agriculture, which is near and dear to me, but really is about a community that's strong and focused on sustainability and thriving, and appreciates the economic impact of a thriving business community and small business and family business. And so I hope we can continue to keep that, and that's one of the perspectives I really hope to bring home as we move forward on all of our initiatives and our relationships back there. So probably a lot more learning ahead, but I just wanted to kind of take a time out on this video and just talk a little bit about sort of that perspective of what I'm really sort of processing and working through while I'm here. So more to come. Thank you again for giving me this fantastic opportunity and for being so supportive back home. I'm having a great time and learning a lot. Talk to you soon.